Welcome to episode number 112 of the AR-15 podcast. I'm your host, Reed Snyder, and with me tonight are my co-hosts, Anthony Hardy and J.W. Ramp. This is the podcast about your favorite black rifle. This is the show for you, whether you're building your first AR or you've been building ARs for years. There's something we can all do to take our black rifle to the next level. Well, listeners, tonight we have, of course, our usual co-host, but we also have some very special guests from, and I'm going to try to say it in its native language, but it's Fabrique, Nationale, de Herstel. But I don't know if that's correct, so we'll have to wait for some of our French listeners to, I did have several semesters of French in high school, so I think I'm close. I even have a client who's Belgian. Anyways, so Mark Hanish and Christina DeMilt from FNH. And we're happy to have you guys on. So what we are going to do now is let you know that it is Brownells who helps make this show possible. So don't forget that Brownells, with their 100% lifetime satisfaction guarantee, is there for you anytime you have a problem, like when you can't remove the taper pins from your new barrel to slip off the front sight base, and now you have to find a new barrel. So when you have a chance and you need some AR-15 parts, go to Brownells. You can get to their website through the AR15podcast.com/parts link on our website. So, Mark, Christina, how are you guys doing tonight?
Doing great. How are you tonight?
Doing well.
Doing
Christina,
very well.
don't be shy. All right.
I'm off mute.
Well, so Christina basically runs the show out there at SHOT when it comes to all of us media types trying to get access to the company. Isn't that the case?
Yes, sir.
And it was through Christina's good graces that we have tonight with us Mark Hanish, who is the Senior Director of Commercial Sales for FNH. So, Mark, thank you for coming on.
It's my absolute pleasure. Glad to privileged to be here speaking with you guys.
Well, we're excited to have you, and I think first and foremost it's because of, I guess, the incredible reputation that FN has when it comes to firearms, and more specifically, the firearm that we as civilians enjoy using. And it was last year that you guys finally came out with your own civilian variant of the AR-15. You called it the FN-15. So, Mark, tell me, how long was that in the pipeline for you guys to get to a place where you could put it out for us to buy it?
Oh, it was a quick turnaround. It's about 25 years. Well, we, as a company, we started building the M16s. It started off with a parts contract that we won in 1989, and then we started delivering complete M16s in 1990. So it has been, since then, 500,000 or 600,000 M16s on that first contract, I think. So to say we have a little bit of history and know-how of putting the black rifle together is somewhat of an understatement. So we've been doing that for a long time in our South Carolina facility. And that's the same facility that we build the M249 saws and the M240, medium machine gun, and now the Mark 19, and quite a few implements of fun for the U.S. military. And it's been, probably a decade in the works to try and get a commercial version of the AR-15, which, like you said, we finally came out with last year with the FN-15. And there were a myriad of reasons behind that, but really one of the biggest ones is, we have a facility that was dedicated 100% to cranking out machine guns. And there's been this war going on for the last 10, 12 years that they've been focused on, and we are a huge proponent of the American consumer and the commercial market. It was just a matter of resources. When the government needs machine guns, that's what we have to do, and we're honored and we're proud that we do that. But we had to wait for a little break in the action to where we could turn some of that over and start making some for all of us.
So when you get to the point where you're going to devote that I guess, production capacity to the FN-15. Is that a function of the growth of your capacity to include that demand, or is it that you have room because of modifications in your other demands? I mean, did you build new equipment, extra square footage, or did you just take what was unused capacity at the factory and kind of redirect it?
It's a little of both. I mean, as we've gone along, they've added some more room, modified things around down at the factory to give us some extra capacity, as well as, with wars winding down, there's not the need, the same need for the maximum production capacity. So that's really the biggest thing that, with the government buying a few less, we got the capacity to build a few for us, and then we turn right around at the same time we start doing that. We win the M4 contract, and now so we're ramping up and producing M4s. I tell you, it's a beautiful sight to be down at the factory and just see racks of M4s hanging. I mean, by the hundreds, that are. It kind of makes me weepy a little. But
well,
it's a matter of some of the products, the belt feds, not being produced to the same level that they were, that we can divert a little bit of time and resources to the commercial market.
Well, so from FN's perspective, I mean, have you guys dived into that end of the industry with both feet? Because I remember in the last 2 years talking to other companies and manufacturers about other demands that were put on them by external forces, be it supply chains, whatever the case may be. And obviously when they're just starting or not as committed or tied up with other product lines, sometimes you have to give in certain areas. So with the commitment that you've made, do you feel that you guys are just in it to win it, or is this something that you might think is going to be affected if, say, another hotspot develops, or if we have another run on the firearms?
I would say we are 1,000% committed. We have jumped in with 2 feet, and I mean, not even 2 feet. We've got a whole company behind us, not only here in the U.S., but the entire Belgian contingent is behind the commercial portion of FN. So this is not something that is a, we've got a little capacity, let's pay attention to the commercial market. This is a complete direction that has been in the works over the past 7 years. We've had some personnel changes in the company, brought in some really important folks, and have driven towards the commercial market. I mean, we are, for a 125-year-old company, we are a young company in the United States. I mean, we set up our facility in McLean in 1998, but we really didn't go to the commercial market till, what was it, Christina, 2001 or 2003, with the 5.7 pistol. What was that?
2003.
Okay, 2003. So now it has been a progression of, in the beginning we took a lot of the machine guns that we made, converted them into a semi-automatic form, and supplied that with, well, not the machine gun, but the 5.7 pistol with its partner, the PS90, which came from the P90, and then we took the FS2000, which came from the F2000, and then the SCAR, and we had a few other products. You guys probably all well know that the Herstal Group, we have sister companies in Browning and Winchester. So there's a few products that you've seen, cross lines, the FNAR and now the SC1 shotgun, so, and the SLP. So we've got a few lines or a few shotguns that have crossed lines, but we are now moving full force into the U.S. consumer market. So for a 2003 start, really, we have come a long way to bring such a storied history to the U.S. And we're really focused on, letting people know, even though we are a Belgian company, I mean, this is a U.S. enterprise. All your sales teams here in the U.S., but our factory is here in South Carolina. And we are making as many of the guns as we possibly can there. Our SPR bolt guns all of our 9, 40, and 45 handguns we produce in South Carolina, whether they're the hammer-driven FNX line or the Striker FNS line. All of that stuff is ramped up. So it's not we got a little extra capacity, let's sell a few more in the commercial market. We are driving there 100%, and if we need more capacity, we'll make it.
Well, that's a heck of a commitment, and I'm very pleased to hear that, because I've got an FNP that converted to the FNX. That's a 45, and you can't find holsters for that. So I'm waiting for you guys to get a few 100,000 more units out there in the market, so you get a little depth in the holster community.
We are that's something that we are working hard on. I can tell you, Blaytech has a holster for your gun. I promise you they do. Safariland has fits for almost all of our guns, and Galco has fits for almost all of our guns. So there's quite a few out there.
Well,
yeah, I've been trying to track down one for my FNP 45 with the Osprey screwed onto the end of it. So it's not something I've been really pushing for, but it's like I've always got my eyes open if there's a holster out there that pops up.
One to fit an Osprey, I think you're gonna have to find a Kydex guy and have him make you something that's that long.
Yeah. Oh, I wouldn't mind it sticking at the end a little bit.
That's all right. So,
hey, question for you. When you switched over from the M16 production, technically, are you looking at very similar rifles? Is it just, hey, we'll drill one less hole and put a few extra or different parts in the trigger pack, or is it a little more complicated than that?
It's not actually switching over. It's the same facility, but our M16 production line, nothing messes with that. We don't make machine guns one day and semi-automatic guns the next day. They are two completely separate systems. So it's never going to be, well, we're building machine guns this month and the commercial market's going to have to wait. I mean, it really speaks to the commitment that we made. If we're going to build these rifles and have them available for sale, they're always going to be available. And we have our own separate lines. There's separate production lines, separate machines. It is under the same roof with the same skilled labor force, but they're completely different production lines.
Now, is it the same technology that goes in each rifle?
Absolutely.
Or is it kind of new from the ground up?
I mean, it's the same 60-year-old technology that's cutting edge.
So the reliability that you're going to get in a military gun, you're going to be able to buy right off the shelf when you're looking for a semi-auto version.
Yes, I mean our barrel production is amazing, and there's one thing that people throw around a lot is mil spec. Is this mil spec? Is that mil spec? And we're really going to speak to that as a little preview sometime coming up in the future here. It may be a possibility that we will throw out a complete mil-spec gun that looks just like one of the auto guns. So for anyone that has served, it could be a great way to have a rifle that is as close to 100% identical, obviously with the exception of the happy switch, but that look and feel will be exactly the same. And when you start talking about what that look and feel is, what a lot of people don't understand, they hold up the military, as this, this ideal look. Well, those lower receivers, they don't look anything like a commercial receiver. I mean, there's no spec for the military to clean off the forge marks and the dents and the dings and the nicks and so forth. It's not necessarily a pretty rifle because that's not what's important to the U.S. government. That you have a super reliable, very well made gun is important. The visual criteria, it's not nearly what you get or what you expect out of what the consumer expects out of a commercial rifle. So I mean that's one thing that the factory has really worked hard on. They've got 25 years of building this rifle, and no one ever, the government doesn't care if you throw them all in a bin. That's what they do with them, but a consumer, that doesn't fly. So
yeah,
I mean,
gotta make sure it looks pretty in the safe.
Yeah, I mean, so and that's why one thing that with those separate lines, that commercial production line, there are safeguards in place to make sure. I mean, those things get built with white gloves, just so they are everything that you want it to be when you open the box.
Well, I can remember some days that we didn't treat ours very well, and that was on somebody's order. So, so Mark, when it comes to the 5 FN-15s that you guys released this year at SHOT Show, is there one among them that really kind of reaches out to you as something you're most proud of, or do they all just kind of fit with that idea that you're committing wholeheartedly to coming into the market and addressing your consumer?
I really like the rifles we came out with. Last year we made a statement of, hey, we're going to be in this market, and a lot of people said, well, it's about time, or what I liked is when people go, oh, you guys are finally going to start making ARs. Well, why not? And we got to give them a little education on, no, we've made this gun for quite a while. Jumping in this year, I am really proud of 2 of them in particular: the FN-15, the tactical carbine, and the DMR, the designated marksman rifle. Those 2 guns, and especially the DMR, that's probably, if I had to pick one, that's my favorite of the bunch. And we can get into the particulars of why. But when we come down to it, I think a lot of companies have way too many SKUs, and have just piles and piles of rifles, and they have it every which way that you could possibly want it, and that's not something we're going to get into. So we were very focused on the guns that we put out. Now, we did have 5 of them, but one of them was specifically for law enforcement that met the needs, challenges, and requirements that the law enforcement community was looking for in the patrol carbine. We don't even offer that on the commercial market. It's purely a law enforcement gun. So the other guns, the other 4, have a specific purpose, and they meet a niche, or they fill a role, fill a niche, and there was a reason for them. So we want to, stay true to not just throw out, basically not go ahead and vomit and throw out 20 new models of, well, 16 different people are making rails. We might as well put guns out with them. So as we go through them, I'll tell you, there's a reason we did the sporting. We have a 3-gun shooting team. It's not our competition rifle yet, so you'll have to stay tuned for that one. But it is a good sporting rifle for, the average guy. If he wants some real high-end performance, he can get it at an extremely reasonable price. When we get to the tactical carbine, it's everything kind of we wanted out of a 16-inch carbine. I mean, going with, quality components in there. We just kind of put the thing together of how I'd want it, and how all of us sat around the table and said, this is what we would want out of a do-everything 16-inch gun, a fighting gun, a tactical gun, a home defense gun, a go-to-the-range gun. It's everything we wanted out of it. And the same thing with the DMR. With the 18-inch barrel, it's got a rifle-length gas system on there. It's got a Surefire Pro Comp muzzle brake on it. The thing is super smooth. It shoots flat. It's very, very accurate. I think they're testing them out of the factory, and they're running like 3/4 MOA out of the factory for a cold hammer forged barrel in the chrome line. And so that thing was set up to be a designated marksman rifle. Put a low-power variable glass optic on it. It's super light. It's a light profile barrel. We got the Midwest Industries rail on there. That thing is light. It's rigid. It's great. It's got a pick rail all the way across the top, because in that setup you can have that low-power variable optic, but it's also set up for clip-on night vision or thermal. I mean, that's whether it's a for a myriad of reasons. A lot of them are hogs, but a lot of people going with clip-on night vision. So we make something that's super accurate, easy to shoot, and it's got a Timney trigger in there. So, I mean, heck, we can spend a couple minutes on every one of these things.
Well, you know what? I think it really would be of value to do so. Why
Okay.
don't we start out with the ones that the consumers can get? So we'll put the patrol carbine at the end because I do have some law enforcement listeners, but let's start out with the sporting rifle. So first thing I noticed is that this isn't 223. So I've talked to a number of gunsmiths. I've talked to some that work for county sheriff's offices, and sometimes they have to go in and take a look at the chambers of these rifles, and they're kind of surprised about some companies' barrels who say they're 5.56 and they aren't, and some people that you wouldn't imagine they would be, but they are consistently. And so is this a specific choice to chamber the barrel differently from the other lines that shoot the 5.56, or is this just the way it's spelled out in the brochure?
No, it is most definitely a 223 chamber, and we were very specific in making that a 223 Remington chamber. The genesis of that rifle was to have a very accurate gun that you could use for competition, for target shooting, and when we're really starting to try and wring the last bit of accuracy out of the AR platform, we decided to go with the 223 chamber as well as a 1 8 twist, and we went with a heavier contour barrel than on our other guns, to not just some random theory that a heavier barrel is more accurate, but when we're shooting them in competition, you want to fire 2 rounds on a target. The more mass in that barrel keeps that rifle on target for the second shot. So if I have a pencil barrel and I can put a target at 25 yards, hold on it, rip 2 rounds, and keep them in, say, an 8-inch circle. If I have a heavier barrel, I can extend that out possibly to 100 yards. Right. So depending upon what you want to do with it, there's reasons why we did that. So a lot of the feedback we got was trying to wring that accuracy out. People wanted a 223 chamber, and heck, most all of the ARs now, just run a standard 5.56 NATO chamber, and it eats everything. It's great, love it, but when you're trying to get that last, quarter minute out of it, it's not doing you any favors.
Well, so the 1 8,
yeah.
The 1 8 twist. I mean, are you trying to basically bridge the gap from the guys that are still going to be shooting the 55 and 62 grain, and then allow them to kind of reach up into the 65, 69, 70, 75, 77 grain?
Yep, that was exactly the the theory behind that was, we do have a competition shooting team, and we do have access to a whole slew of folks that do this for a living. So we kind of put it out there, and that's what we got back the most, is they wanted that compromise, because, in the 3-gun world, you could be ripping 55 grain bullets, into targets, inside of 100 yards, from muzzle contact to 100 yards, and in the same stage, lay down and be shooting a steel target at 600 yards. So people switch ammunition, on the fly, and right. The rifle's got to be able to do it all. So it's a compromise. You try and put it in the middle and get the best out of both ends of the spectrum.
Well, so in the sporting rifle, is there anything else that really kind of bears mentioning?
We threw a Samson rail on there. There's a 15-inch rail, so you can get your arm out. For offhand shooting, same thing for positional shooting in sporting or in competitions and so forth. A lot of times, we're not on a bench. You're never shooting off a bench when you're in a match. A lot of times it's a rock, it's a tree stump, it's a tree, it's a fence, it's a pole, it's a field. It's God knows whatever you can find to get as supported a position as possible. So having the extra real estate out there really helps you. And then the other thing we did with that was threw in a Timney trigger. We've been running Timney on the pro shooting team now. So we turned right around, and talk about a great company with a great product. And speaking of being out here in Arizona, they're right down the street.
So, well, I tell you what, if you can get them to come on the show, we'd like to talk to them too.
Okay.
So you put the chimneys in there.
Yep. Yeah, we've got a 3.5-pound Timney trigger in there. Still gives you plenty of room for safety, but that that just the triggers everything in those rifles. I mean, it really helps when you've got the mechanical accuracy of the platform. But if you can't hold the rifle, true while you're trying to squeeze through a mil-spec trigger, what good does it do if you have that 1 1/8 twist 223 chamber and then you've got Crunch City trying to make the thing go bang? It just
Right.
Without a good trigger, you're just there's no chance.
So is it because it is geared towards competitors that you chose to not address irons? You
Yes.
kind of leave it up to your competitor to be the one that makes that choice?
Yeah. The backup iron sight systems are great for a tactical rifle, something that I'd call a serious gun. You're putting together something that's could be used in a real situation. For the sporting rifle, this thing's made for the range. It's made for shooting, plinking, competition, and backup iron sights are just not something that you necessarily need. There's some great sets of them that work that are offset sights that you may see on future models that are more higher end competition guns from us, but out of the gate, to get the lowest cost possible but a high quality rifle to the guy that probably won't ever need backup sights, I couldn't see charging everybody an extra $100 for it. If you need them, you can buy them, and
Right.
It's not rocket surgery to put them on.
Well, let's move on to the DMR. I know that you've covered some of this, but as far as the irons, I see you guys are putting the Magpul Pros on, or the MBUS Pros on them. Have you put the adjustable rear MBUS on, or is it just the standard?
It's adjustable. Goes up and down.
For those of us
when in doubt, it always
that are
helps to
just
have it right
listening
here.
and not watching the video, he just leaned over and grabbed one.
So yeah, we've got the like I said, that gun is made to be a serious rifle.
Right.
It bridges the gap between a military, law enforcement, concerned citizen, tactical everything. It's the fighting rifle I'd take. It allows me to have a rifle that has got a lightweight profile barrel under the handguard, but this is the one that's shooting a sub-minute, so you can carry it all day long. It's got the Midwest Industries rail on there, so it's lightweight. It's got the full Picatinny rail on there. We did go with the MBUS Pros, the steel sights. Again, like I said, it's a serious gun. Mo furniture on it, or Mo grip. We put a Timney trigger. Again, this thing's made to have an optic on here, but with that serious nature, it needed backup iron sights so that you could have them on the rifle in case something happened to your optic. And then the Magpul STR, the storage stock. So you've got space for batteries, and more importantly, it gives you a great cheek weld. It's got a nice big flat spot on there, and you can really get found behind this gun, stay on it a while, stay on target, and be comfortable in in the glass. We rolled an 18-inch barrel in here, cold hammer forged, hard chrome lined, and we put a rifle length gas system on it, so the thing is super smooth. We paired that up with an H1 buffer in the back, so the thing is balanced great, shoots smooth, and put the Surefire Pro Comp on there, so it's a muzzle brake and keeps you on target. You can make hits. When you're shooting 400 or 500 yards, you can break that shot and watch the impact through your glass because this rifle's not moving anywhere.
So, did you go with the 1 1/8 twist rate on this as well?
No, switching back into more of a serious nature gun, we went with a 1 7 twist, and we went with a 5.56 NATO chamber. So this thing's got to be able to fit, fire, and feed everything that it could possibly, you come across or you have, and ultimate in reliability and functionality, I'm willing to give up that quarter minute of accuracy to make the gun run 100% with whatever I have.
Right.
And I say that, and now that we're building them and testing them, they're shooting sub-minute, no problem. So the only thing I can say is we build a hell of a barrel.
Well,
Make sure that
let's move on to the FN-15 MOE SLG. So, well, go ahead.
That gun, I tell you, we have a very tight relationship with Magpul. And as they've rolled out the new M-LOK system, that is something that we were speaking with them up front right away with. And, it's really an awesome negative space mounting system. And it's the best one out there that we found, our experience, everything that we've looked into it and spoken with them about, we're really behind the M-LOK. So as a factory, the tactical carbine and the DMR have that M-LOK rail on there. Right. So we were the first manufacturer to put out a factory rifle with M-LOK. And probably the first part of December, they switched over all of their MO furniture, all their polymer MO furniture from the old MO locking system all into M-LOK. And it went with a slim line, so they called it the MO SL. I'm a huge fan of the new SL stock. I think it's probably the best stock that they have made to date. The thing fits great. It's got a good butt pad on there. It's got, it's right in between the CTR and the STR for a cheek weld, so it's just kind of the right amount. There's no lock system on it. It's got tension bars on the inside, so the thing is, locked on, and it's got solid tension all the way, so it's never rattling, never moving. I love that stock. So speaking with the guys at Magpul, come December, they said, hey, we now have all the slimline with M-LOK. And we said, great, we will do that. We had decided as a company, everybody, their mother, their brother, their uncle, and nephew and fourth cousin removed, had a M4 clone with MO plastic on it, and in every color of the rainbow. So that was something that we were not gonna do, just because if you wanted that, 16 other companies already made it, and we didn't want to have any Me Too products. We wanted everything to have a specific purpose. So with our, working with them, being the first ones out of the gate with the M-LOK, now that they had the MO SL with M-LOK, we said, okay, get us the polymer. We retrofitted the FN-15 carbine. I shouldn't say retrofitted. I mean, we just rolled that into the production line and started making them with that polymer on there, and rolled those out. So we had 3 models of the M-LOK system. So not only were we the first to do it, but we did it with 3 models, which is pretty awesome because we only had 2 models the week before total.
And that
so
SLG,
that's what we do.
What does that stand for there in the model name? It's called the FN-15 MO SLG.
Slimline gray.
Slimline gray.
Gray. All right.
It was we had a committee, and there was a quorum, and we voted to call the gray furniture the G.
Perfect.
Now, isn't gray the new black? Isn't that where it's all headed? We're going to go urban gray, and eventually we'll all be pixelated into gray little bits. And I think Anthony's trying to figure out a way to connect that new movie about the different shades of gray and a new.
Hey.
Did I just hear a request for gray ties to ship with the carbines?
There you go. There you go.
So when you're looking at the one we're just talking about compared to the patrol carbine, very similar. It's just different furniture.
Well, it's the same as the FN-15 carbine, just the standard carbine that released last year. It's that gun with the MO furniture on there.
Perfect.
But you're right. The patrol carbine grows from that one too. It's the I'm looking at a picture of it because I haven't had the time behind it. It's the same rifle, but I believe that's got it's got a drop-on rail system, a quad rail, and a flip-up rear sight for LE.
And it looks like you're saving a good chunk of change when you're using that furniture too, as far as the price point that consumers are going to see on it.
For which one?
So the Mo, it comes in quite a bit lower than the other ones.
Yeah. It's I mean, Magpul has done a phenomenal job of providing those. It's a heck of an upgrade in those parts, and it's at a very competitive price. It allows us to bring that rifle to you at a great price.
Are you throwing in Magpul mags with any of your guns?
Yeah, yes. All of the standard, the FN-15 carbine, and the rifle have the aluminum mags, and I believe the patrol carbine does too, since it's a law enforcement gun. All of the new commercial guns, the sporting gun, the DMR, and the tactical carbine all have Gen 3 Magpuls. So you'll see it switching over to running Magpuls as an OEM product.
Cool.
So when it gets down to it, you guys make a very large percentage of the components that come into your rifles. Is that the case?
I'm not exactly.
Obviously.
Are you talking like little pins and springs and?
Yeah, the bits and pieces, and of course you guys make barrels in house. And historically, would you make, say, on your military contract, would you make the two-piece handguards and the stocks and the handguards in house so you could roll them out, or did you have other suppliers? Because it would seem to me that you guys, being tied with a great company like Magpul, now have this whole distribution chain that comes from outside of the company. And, really to understand where you guys are in production, just wondering, I guess I'm thinking out loud, that you guys have historically done a lot of your own stuff. I mean, how many manufacturers have their own ability to make barrels? And that's something you guys are, I think, almost universally known for being able to make exceedingly well.
We really do stick to our core competencies in the firearms. As far as the military ones are concerned, I can't tell you which parts and pieces we make and don't make. I mean, I've seen the lowers come off the machines and the uppers and the barrels in house, and all that stuff that's really the core of the rifle, we absolutely do make there. Some of the other bits and pieces, and there's not a spring machine there, so I know that. And I don't think some of the polymer stuff that I don't think we're doing the polymer stuff in house. I mean, those are that's its own thing, and that's not our core competency. So those are some of those bits and pieces that I'm speculating at this point that
Right.
I'm guessing that we bring those in. But you can see on the commercial line, we definitely stick to our core competencies. Building the best barrels in the world and building great parts, and then partnering up with great companies. With the Magpuls and Surefire for for muzzle brakes and accessories, and Timney and Midwest Industries makes great rails, and so does Samson. So there's some people that have a lot of experience and specialize in doing that. So hey, why wouldn't we, offer the consumer, kind of a cherry-picked gun? I mean, we can buy anything we want and put it on there, and these are things that heck I wanted, and and our team did. As we sat around the table, we're like, I love this stock. Let's put this stock on the gun, and it just turned out that a lot of those plastic parts happen to be from Magpul, but there's nothing to say that if XYZ 123 Systems Company has the better mousetrap next year, that there's nothing stopping us from delivering that to the FN customer.
Right. Well, the thing that I think everybody here on the show will acknowledge is that Magpul makes some outstanding products, and I think that we're fans. You know, obviously there are some trends in the industry that, when it comes to attaching things to your rails, we're really kind of split up in a lot of ways, and I think that some people are trying to accommodate all comers. Some people, of course, are trying to figure out the best way to accomplish that, you know, customer satisfaction with a choice that for them makes the most sense. And so it sounds to me like you guys have basically said, Magpul, we want you on board with the M-Lock system. So at this point, was that driven by the aftermarket availability of things to put on your rifles? Because I've heard it said that when you came out with this line, it was, let's build rifles so that when people pull them out of a box, they don't have to buy a lot of pieces to make it what they really wanted.
Yeah, it's definitely a true statement. We tried to put together rifles that appealed obviously to the broadest group of customers, but they're also for the discerning customer. There's some things that cost more money, and the hammer forged barrels and the Timney triggers and surefire parts and MBUS Pro sights, but all of them were done with a specific reason and a purpose behind them, so that consumer could buy the rifle and be pretty set. Speaking to the rail systems, we went from plastic to Picatinny rail everywhere, and then an entire cottage industry popped up of how to cover my Picatinny rail so it doesn't become a DNA collection center, and tear my hands apart. So then now you got, a tube and then Picatinny rail and then covers, and then all of a sudden you're holding a 2-liter soda can or soda bottle out in front of you, and it's I've got my law rocket that shoots 223. So then we've gone the other way, and Keymod came on the scene, and it's a everyone goes, oh wow, this is awesome. Well, what I really think people got behind was the fact that they cut the dang Picatinny rails off. I don't need 27 inches of Picatinny rail around my rifle to mount my my Surefire micro Scout and a front sight. So the rails felt great, and they lightened the guns up. And there's, looking back into us again, we weren't in the middle of the fight. We weren't in the thick of it, and people have been cranking out Keymod rifles for a couple of years now. And when we looked at it, it's okay, great. I want to mount my flashlight to this Keymod. Well, okay. Well, you can buy this piece of Picatinny rail that attaches onto your Keymod, and then you can get your flashlight, which attaches to a ring to the Picatinny rail. It's like, well, wait a minute. Why? Now it's hanging out over here in right field again. Why can't I have something that just mounts up to it? So without Magpul being the 800-pound gorilla in the accessory market making anything for Keymod, you had kind of a hodgepodge of parts and bits and pieces, and when I sat down to go, okay, I'd build a rifle like I want, I couldn't get that stuff. So that was one of the big reasons we went with the M-Lock. It was something that we knew, with Magpul being behind it, there's no way they're going to put out a rail system and then not support it with 8,000 accessories, so that anybody that buys one of the rifles, they're going to have panels if they want them. They're going to have direct attach flashlights, direct attach grips, and it's just a strong system. It's a stronger system. We've sat there and put the stuff on, and even on the plastic, on the Mo SL, the polymer stuff, I was shocked at just how strong that system is. I mean, you put a forward pistol grip on it, and you can crank on that thing for everything you got. I mean, it is rigid. It's unbelievable.
Well, so at this point, and I still want to cover the tactical carbine, but being who you are, being FN, and from the perspective that and I'm jumping out here without any details about the size of the company. You're 125 years old. You fulfill military contracts, I'm assuming worldwide, based on proven designs, some of which are almost as old as your company. Isn't the M2HB, something that was, manufactured before the Second World War?
Yep, from 1925. I believe it's 1925. The M2 heavy machine gun is the longest running weapon system in the U.S. arsenal.
So, from that perspective, does that give you the ability to kind of look down into a market and really kind of be extremely careful about how you plan your moves? And I'm assuming with that there's also the whole idea that, I can turn a speedboat around on a dime, but the Titanic takes a while.
Well, we prefer to use the term train rather than Titanic because trains have a much longer, healthier, and more profitable.
Okay, the Titanic was probably a bad analogy.
The company being 125 years old, I mean, it's a global company. We're based out of Belgium. That's where the headquarters is, and but we've also got manufacturing around the world. And when you start looking at arming militaries around the world, it's FN. It's really with the from the 1950s on with the FAL. I mean, that was the right arm of the free world with over 90 countries adopting that rifle. To put that into perspective, there was roughly 130 countries that field a military, so that's some market share. So when you talk about the world scope and scale of arms makers in the world, we're in there. So it does offer us a unique position in the U.S. market to where we're not a startup company. We're not having to come out with crazy nonsense or do shenanigans and have wacky arms, wavy inflatable guys in the corner to try and sell a gimmick gun. We are able to take a breath, to really look at a market and evaluate it and put a product in there that's really got FN DNA all over it. And what that means, being a military company, I mean, that's our heritage. That's what we do. So what that means is we've got to build not one of a gun, not 1,000 of a gun, but 50,000 of a gun or 100,000 of a gun, and produce those so that they can work for the greatest number of people and be reliable and be set up to be serviceable and to last. So all of those things, go into every one of the guns that we make. To use the train reference, as a military organization, it's a freight train. It may take a year or two to get a project moving, but that project's going to run for 20, 30, 40, 50 years of we make 2,000 of these a month. For somebody's entire career at the factory, we could, they may make, 2,000 of that belt-fed machine gun for the next 30 years. That's the stuff we do. Once that train gets going, there's nobody on this planet that's better at making, an ultra-reliable product that is, a day-in, day-out workhorse. So there's trade-offs. We can make not one, not 1,000, but 100,000 of them, and they're all great. But that also means we can't make, a new widget, whiz-bang, whatever, every week. And there's companies that are really good at that. That they can come up with something and, crank out a couple thousand of them, and they can be on the dealer shelves, 4 months from being on a sketch pad. And, that's not us. And we're okay with that. And like I said, as a shooter and a gun collector, I love the fact that other companies can do that because, I'm staring at a couple giant safes here that are full of other companies' products because I had to have one in 257 Weatherby, and I had to have one in 28 gauge, and I had to have this, and I had to have that. I love it. You know, our military DNA goes through our products. We really look at them to go, okay, we're going to build it, and when we industrialize it, and when we test it, and then we retest it, and then we optimize it, and then the engineers go back through it again, and then they put another 50,000 rounds through them, and then they go, okay, it gets the FN logo. Like, all right, so once it rolls with that logo, I mean, that means something. But it also means, you get a quality product, but it also means you're not going to have 87 models and 52 calibers, because we just can't do it that fast. And the time, money, and energy that goes into every one of the products means that if it's not a big project, it just will never pay for itself. We can't go, let's make 100 of these and possibly, be profitable doing it.
Right.
Hey, little different note. Wondered, did your design team kind of go down the road of trying to do a piston AR, or is that kind of relegated to the SCAR world? What are you guys' thoughts about the piston concept? I know some guys are just diehard into that, and they just have completely abandoned the DEI world.
I think you've seen a lot of companies over the last 15 years put a lot of time, money, energy, and expertise into piston rifles. There's nothing in our background, in our history, in our DNA that has piston rifles in it. We make direct impingement rifles. That's what we do, and that's what the FN or AR-15 system is. It's a direct impingement gun. So we're gonna focus on that, and then you're right. If you want to go with a modern system, we've got the SCAR, and with SCAR coming to the U.S., which I saw in the notes that we may get to talk about the SCAR 20 here in a little bit. There's a lot of exciting things in the SCAR world coming up, and that's our leap. The pistons I see really as a compromise. It's a stopgap measure to give you reliability out of a the AR-15 set up to be a direct impingement gun. So that's why you've seen a decade of innovation, fixes, changes, and so forth of people building a better mousetrap. And there's some companies that make some amazing piston guns that I have probably 2 or 3 different companies' piston guns, and I love them, and they're great. But for us, when we sat down with the design team and looked at it, we've got nothing to point to in our history to give us direction on that. So we're going to stick with the FN-15s as a direct impingement gun, and then SCAR-based systems for everything that's a piston system.
Awesome.
Listen, why don't we talk about the tactical carbine and the patrol? And then maybe we can get a chance to talk about JW's favorite weapons platform here. So
the belt fence?
The tactical. Well, he's a big fan of those too.
Yeah, exactly. Let's dive right into the mini-me and whatever. You said you do a Mark 19 too?
Oh yeah.
Yep.
JW, I've actually fired a Mark 19, so.
Okay, back to the
up.
boring ARs. Let's get back to
it. The tactical carbine, that gun, is kind of a sister or brother gun to the DMR. It's a shorter gun. It's a 16-inch barrel. We went with a mid-length gas system on there. Running DI guns, the longer you can stretch that gas out, the smoother and softer that gun is, the more reliable it is, the cleaner it is, the everything better. You can get that gas, the further away from the chamber, the better it is. Again, we paired that up with an H1 buffer in there, give you a little bit more weight, smooth it out, make it a little bit more reliable. That one did get the the new SL stock. Again, I'm a huge fan of that stock, and that was something that was late in the game that that thing was getting ready to roll out, and the stock became available. They got production done at the very end of the year, and you're going to start to see a much more nimble FN. We talked about the freight train rolling. Once that bad boy gets going and making guns, it's hard to stop, and it's hard to change directions. I'd like to think we've gotten down to a tractor trailer now. We can really kick some butt and haul, but we can't turn, and we can change lanes, and we can kind of do them, with a whole lot more speed now. So that's a great example of, that stock wasn't available, and coming down to, you guys know how it is before SHOT Show, trying to get everything hammered down and locked in for the catalogs and the price sheets and ready for the show. When you make a change in November, the Christinas and the marketing people, that's when they lose hair and scream at us. But we're a much more nimble company now. And that really speaks to, we didn't touch on it earlier, but we had a merger. We used to be two entities in the U.S., FNH USA, our sales and marketing, all of us, and then we had our manufacturing facility, which was FN Manufacturing. Earlier this year, we merged that all together into FN America, and got the whole, everybody's on the same team now, and not that we weren't before, but just kind of all the things you would ever hope that would come out of a merger, all the positive things, really worked for us. And we've come out a much stronger company and a much faster company. So we could do stuff, back in the day, if we said, hey, we want to change a stock, it would have been 6 months to get something done. Now we got that stock changed in a week, and literally that Mo SLG, that gun went from start to finish, and it was inside of 2 weeks. We had those rolling off the line, and under the old freight train method, that would have been a year to do. It went from a year to 10 business days. So that's what's really affording us the ability to kind of kick some butt here.
Well, so the patrol carbine.
I think I got off the rifles.
Well, was there anything on the tactical carbine that you wanted to kind of highlight?
It's got the Mo furniture. We went with the M-Bus sights on there, since it is something that that's going to be our bread and butter gun. That's the one that's going to have the broadest appeal to it. It's got the same the M-Lock and that super lightweight Midwest Industries rail. We put the M-Bus sights on there, so it had sights. So the consumer purchasing that, could go out and shoot the rifle. And the other thing you'll notice is the top of that rail, it's scalloped. So you have, unlike the DMR that's got Picatinny rail all the way across the top, because we're expecting you to put clip-on night vision or thermal devices, the tactical is something that you may have a low power variable on there. You will probably have a red dot of some sort on there, so you don't need pick rail out in front. But those where they remove the Picatinny rail, they're M-Lock slots. So if you want to fit nat pile or a light up there or something, you still have all your negative space attachment that you can go ahead and put in there. And then one thing that I think is really neat, just because I'm a FN machine gun nerd, is the our flash hider on there. We took the SCAR flash hider, the 3-prong flash hider, and said, hey, let's go ahead and put that on our rifle. So when you're looking at black rifles on the wall, you're going to look at that and go, okay, that's an FN product.
Well, that's an amazing carbine. So tell me, when it comes down to the M-Lock, are you guys going to ever provide accessories with the rifles, or do they just come with the plain vanilla stock and handguard, and you're just going to let the consumer go out and get the Magpul pieces they want to add to it?
Yeah, we'll let the consumer do that. All of the DMR and the tactical carbine that have the Midwest Industries rail, those come with a 2-inch piece of Picatinny rail that you can add somewhere. So if you want to put a pistol grip on there, we give you the 2-inch piece of rail to come with it. Past that, it really comes down to, it's such a myriad of options that the consumer has. So you either have to add it all or add none of it, and adding everything just adds cost.
Right.
So it's one of those things that if I buy a $5 part and put it in the gun, by the time it gets to you, you're paying more than the $5 you could have bought, to put it on there. Just the way the world works and it gets to you. So I'd rather get you a gun with all the quality components that make the gun go bang and do awesome stuff, and it's up to you to dress it up how you want.
Right. Well, on the patrol carbine, you'd indicated that this was going to be exclusively for law enforcement. So is that a different distribution system, or how is it that how do you provide it to law enforcement so that the consumer might not be able to have access to it?
Yeah, well, I mean, there's nothing restricted, about that gun. One thing that we're proud of as FN is bringing, military and law enforcement guns to the consumer. So there's nothing in that gun that's super secret sauce or anything that you can't get or you can't have. It's just something that as the commercial side of it, we were going with the M-Lock and kind of the sexy, spacey, racy guns. The law enforcement's a different market. Those guys, and we do have a separate distribution chain. There's law enforcement distributors and law enforcement dealers, and they sell direct to agencies and to officers that are allowed to buy their own gun. One thing that you find a lot in the agencies, they need the Picatinny rail on the gun. It's the same FN-15 carbine, but it's just set up with that Picatinny rail on there because it's in their their doctrine you can add stuff to a Picatinny rail. That's okay. It doesn't have to go to the armorer. It doesn't have to have a process. You're not actually building it or manufacturing something. You can add all your lasers, lights, gadgets, gizmos, shot counter, breath clock, whatever, and that's really what the law enforcement group was asking for. So we didn't see a need on the commercial side to offer the Picatinny rail, the quad rail model. It's not out of the question. If we get consumers saying that they want to buy it, we've got no problem putting it out there. It wasn't in our commercial product mix.
Okay. Was there anything about this patrol carbine that you would say is unique above your standard AR-15 M4 style or the FN-15 M4 style rifle? I mean, just basically the addition of the quad rail and.
Yeah, it is the same gun. I mean, we don't build to two different standards. And that comes from our military all the way from the SCAR. When you buy a SCAR rifle, that is the same quality, same parts, same receiver, same. There aren't two specs, there aren't two anything. And that's through all of our guns, whether it's the P90s, the F2000s, what have you. We don't have two specs. So the law enforcement gun doesn't have any secret sauce, just like the SOCOM delivered SCAR doesn't have anything. It's the same barrel, it's the same receiver, it's the same bolt and carrier. It's all the same stuff. So we build everything as best as we can. And obviously the law enforcement military can get them as machine guns, but past that, there's not a difference.
Well, it sounds like you guys have just come out with an awesome array of rifles, and I know that the last time I spoke with anybody at Cabela's, they had indicated that they had acquired, I guess they had signed up to begin putting your rifles into their cases, but they indicated, or they were explaining how it takes a while for their old vendors to be kind of rotated out of the cases and new ones put in. So do you guys anticipate getting these out into the hands of the consumers in a relatively short period of time, or do you think it's going to take a while? What's the consensus on how that works for you guys?
For us, when we say we've got them, I mean, we're building them, and they're available. We've got them distributors have them. The dealers can get them. They are all available right now. The big stores, the Cabela's of the world, the Bass Pros, the Gander Mountains, it's just like anything else. It's a big system. You trade being nimble for being huge, and so if your local dealer doesn't have one and you want one, he can call his distributor and have one at the shop tomorrow for you. The big guys, they're right, or what he told you is true. It just takes a while. So they see all this stuff in January. They've got to go through and decide. I mean, if you think of how many rifles are out there and how many guns, and there's only so much wall space. So when they make that decision to do it, it just takes a while to get into some of the the bigger systems, because they've got to get into their distribution center, then out to the stores, and I mean, they do a wonderful job. It just they're more like the freight train. They're set up, they're rolling, and there's no stopping them. But there's no switching gears and changing lanes on a dime or over a weekend. So they will get in there. I say that, not knowing if they're which ones are getting them in or not, but we're 100% behind them, and we've got them made and ready.
Well, tell you what, that's pretty exciting, and I did notice that there were a number of the FN-15s in the 20 and 16-inch lengths, but you just didn't see them in the big box stores. So I'm glad that is going to be the case with this introduction that you guys have made. I think there's one thing that really has, until you guys came on the scene, been the biggest part of FN that anybody in the AR-15 world that I know of was always trying to get to, and that was getting access to an FN barrel. So can you tell me what it is that makes your barrel special? I mean, just whatever you can tell us.
It's something that it's been said, so I'll repeat it, that we make the best barrels in the world. Just all the science that those guys have into it, and I can't even begin to tell you what the secret sauce is, but I mean, they know how to hammer forge a barrel. And the steel that they use and the way they make them, and the craftsmen that are down there doing it, the barrels just shoot, and they're remarkable. I mean, like I said with the designated marksman rifle, that's something. It's a government profile under the handguard. It's medium contour in front of the gas block, and it's a hammer forged chrome line barrel. And that thing's 18 inches, and it's shooting sub-minute. They run like that. We're the only company in the world that, if you look at our precision rifles, our SPR, it's a bolt-action rifle. We make them at our factory in South Carolina. That is a cold hammer forged hard chrome lined barrel. So we put it really is an M240 belt-fed machine gun barrel put on a bolt gun, and those things shoot. We guarantee them to be sub-minute, and some models we guarantee to be sub-half minute, and that's boringly easy. And the old theory is that chrome line, you take chrome lining for durability in a machine gun, but for accuracy it's garbage. But I can ship you a precision rifle that's got a chrome line barrel that'll last 3, 4, 5 times longer than any other barrel that you put on it. And I think last time I checked, the average of those coming out of the factory were about a third minute.
Wow.
Well, I'm sure Reed would be happy to give you his shipping address.
I would.
I mean, it's just one of those things that people go, okay, so what do I do to break in this barrel? I said, well, here's a bore snake and a case of ammo. Knock your socks off. They're like, well, what do I have to do? I said, there's no juju, or face the east on the third Thursday and fire 6 rounds and put Grandpa's secret gun oil down. Just shoot the heck out of it. It's a machine gun barrel. I mean, we had a demonstration one time. We were doing some training for for a big distributor, and we had one of the bolt guns out there, and we had a gong set up at like 300 yards, and I had a line of 50 people, and they were all throwing 3 or 5 rounds down it, just one after the other. And one of the guys was an F-class shooter. He's a bench rest guy. He's like, whoa, you need to let this barrel cool down. You're going to ruin it. And I'm like, we'll do this again and again and again. And the barrel's hot, and like, this thing's made to take a belt-fed machine gun abuse. We can't stack a line long enough, and you can't run that bolt fast enough to hurt this barrel. So that was my sample that we just abused for years. And we took that one out to the Trijicon World Championship, and we had that gun on the line. It's sitting there printing X's at 500 yards, and did it all day long with hundreds of competitors going through the same 3 rifles. You have a belt-fed machine gun barrel on a precision rifle. They're remarkable. So I'm not sure all of the magic that we do to the barrels. I can just tell you they're pretty amazing.
Well, I tell you what, I know that this is really JW's bailiwick here. We're in his wheelhouse, but I'm going to let JW talk to you about what he has found on the SCAR PDW and the SCAR 20.
All right.
Yeah, so it sounds like you got a little SCAR and you got a big SCAR.
The whole family's growing up. We're going to bring them along.
Yeah. So are these both coming to the civilian market, or what are we looking at?
Yeah. We are, right now the SCARs are produced in Belgium. So we import the 16 and the 17. We are industrializing, and we will be making the SCAR in the United States in South Carolina.
Ooh.
The first one that we will be doing is the SCAR 20. So that came from the Mark 20 SSR contract for SOCOM. It is the sniper support rifle. Won the contract, and the thing is, they've been delivering it for years. It's amazing. It is a sub-minute to 1,000-yard semi-automatic SCAR. It's just unreal.
Now, some of the highlights as far as what makes that different from a 17S. What do you got?
What makes it different is the chassis is longer.
Mm-hmm.
So rather having the short carbine chassis that extends past the gas system, give you plenty of real estate for all your clip-on night vision thermal, get your bipod out there. It's opened up in the front so you can get to your gas piston and your regulator settings there. The core of it is it's a different barrel. If you look on the side of your SCAR, you'll see 2 screws on each side back there that lock in the barrel, and there's one up forward. On the Mark 20, there's a much bigger barrel extension with 3 screws on each side. So instead of having it's kind of a short barrel extension, that thing is really stretched out. It really locks the gun together a whole lot more, and it is kind of the core of the accuracy of that gun. Other things with it, it's got a Geisley Super SCAR trigger in it, and it has got the Mark 20 buttstock on there, which is a non-folding but super adjustable cheek piece and length of pull, more of a precision stock. So the thing is just set up to be a precision rifle.
Now, the ones that you're shipping to military customers, are they semi-autos, or you actually make them full auto as well?
That's a semi-auto. The chassis, the receiver, is a machine gun receiver, but it is a semi-automatic rifle. I mean,
Okay.
the government gets them with a Geisley Super SCAR semi-auto trigger in there.
Perfect.
I mean, it's something that at 500 to 1,000 yards, you don't need to be putting a 3-round burst on a guy.
So basically, what consumers are going to be getting is exactly what a military personnel that would be employing this would be using.
Yes. Yeah, it will be one thing that we'll be looking forward to doing this year is, one of the concepts is to really kind of launch some of these as, a contract kit. Here's exactly what comes with it.
Mm-hmm.
What do you guys think about that? The scope, the bag, the magazines, the whole shebang. Is that the surefire suppressor? I mean, the soup to nuts. Is that exciting to you?
On my budget, it's a little out of reach, but I mean, there's people of all shapes and sizes in the shooting community.
Yeah.
I know I've got buddies that love doing the clone builds and I'm doing a Block 2 build, and it's exactly piece by piece, exactly what shows up in theater, and so I could see that being a pretty successful product line.
Yeah, that's one of the concepts is make that available for the folks that want the the honest to goodness here's what you get, but then we'll also make that available as a as a SCAR 20S rifle with one magazine and there you go go forth and dress it up and add to it as you want. So we'll try and hit both sides of the spectrum there.
Now on the other end of the size scale, you got the PDW. Is this just in 5.56?
The PDW is something that will come along now that we're be able to produce SCAR in the U.S. The PDW is something obviously that we can import. It's doesn't quite meet the points for a handgun to bring that bad boy in. So having the production here in the U.S. opens us up to the PDW. We as a company want to provide the PDW to the consumer market. What the final form, flavor, and caliber or calibers that we offer that in, will remain to be seen. But
I see you looking over your shoulder there.
I'm like,
are they listening? Is it the sort of thing where you would do like a pistol version and an SBR version and like that sort of breakdown?
Yeah, yeah. Definitely want to do. Would definitely do a pistol version of that. Have no idea what's going on with the braces these days, and or what people choose to do with them. So. Fortunately, we're.
It's always good to have a gun in your hands while you're waiting for your Form 1 to clear, though.
Yes. It's something that we can offer it a host of different ways, but it makes the most sense to launch it, as a pistol, and then when you get your Form 1 done, have the cool little stock available for you.
Cool. Awesome. Other projects you guys are working on? I mean, I know there's a bunch of handguns that came out recently. Not really our forte on this show, but anything else that our listeners be interested in?
Now, wait a minute. As an FNP owner or an FNX owner who now can't find magazines that will work in his pistol, I do have a pistol sensibility here, but I'll talk to you about that off the air, Mark.
We launched our compact this year, the FNS Compact. The 9 and the 40 came out, and folks are very excited about that. It is a great size. It's one of those things that if you're not first to the market, and we weren't in the fray of all the compact dual column guns that were out, the one thing it did do was allow us to look at the market and see what people were doing. And there's been a lot of modification of some of the other companies' guns out there. This top end with this lower gives us the size that we want. So we really took that luxury to take a minute, and I think we nailed the size on the FNS Compacts. Pretty spot on. It's one of those things that the gun shoots great, and again, it's got our cold hammer forged stainless steel barrel in it. So I had one out with one of the training groups here this past weekend, and we were back at 10 yards, and he shot a ragged hole in the target, and he's like, this is a compact pistol. That doesn't make sense, and I'm like, you can just shoot this gun. It's got our barrel, but it's not too big, it's not too small. It just works. So we're very excited about that, and it's been very, very well received.
Well, so here's one last thing that we have here in the show notes. Apparently, FN is hiring, but that brings to mind a question that I wanted to ask you. We've sat here for some time, talked about the firearms that FN makes, a little bit of the history, the the things that run through the blood of the company. And I don't think that you can miss the fact that you have a passion for working for FN. Tell me, what are they like as a company? I mean, as a culture, as a place to basically go to work and hang your hat every morning. What do you think about FN?
It's fantastic. I absolutely love FN. It's just kind of it's kind of amazing. I mean, I'm a gun guy. I mean, I have been doing this, ever since I got out of college. Was one of the founding partners of the Scottsdale Gun Club. Kind of a awesome place here in Arizona, and I left there 5 years ago to go to work for FN, and it was, just kind of the history, the I mean, I don't know how to put it. It's just awesome. I mean, to go to the factory and see rooms that are the size of football fields that make machine guns for for our soldiers. There's a sense of pride that it can't be faked. And it can't. I don't know that it can be explained. I mean, it's just one of those things that what we do is really pretty amazing, and just being able to be a part of that as a company, it makes you feel good. And on the commercial side, just having that heritage and that. Like we talked about, what's in the DNA of the company, and being able to take that horsepower and that manufacturing and that freight train and take some of our ideas as competitive shooters and gun guys and go, it'd be really awesome if we could do this. And then sit down with the engineers and they go, yeah, and you know what? We can do X, Y, and Z, and we'll make that 7.6% better than you dreamed of. You're like, oh my goodness! And then to have it come, it's just it's pretty awesome. So I love it.
Well, so when you have that kind of passion in a company, do you see it like on the floor when you have guys putting together those rifles, and those men and women are carrying that pride from the military side? Do they take it into that civilian side? Are they representing the company in those ways, trying to share that with the people they're making those rifles for?
Yeah, they really are. I mean, if you look at it from the sales and marketing side, and even our entire management structure. We've got shooters and gun folks that are, throughout our company. I mean, our vice president is on our shooting team, and he's an active competitor. And it's one of those things that you could be at, one of the 3-gun matches and talk to the vice president of FN, and that's how close we like to be to the to the consumer and to the guy that's using our gun. There's no ivory tower that somebody's sitting in and trying to manage this business by spreadsheets. The president of our company, we go shooting with them. It's when we have our company picnic, we start out the morning with a round of sporting clays, and I mean, guns are fired, and that's what we do, by God. So it's really kind of amazing through our whole sales team. You will find us on the range, and you will find us at matches, shooting the guns. And then you're right, it's the same thing in the manufacturing side. Those folks, they are incredibly proud, and the stories that you get to hear. I hope I don't bash it because it's been a couple of years, but I mean, all of those machine guns, they go through a test fire range. All of them get fired, and then they get cleaned and dipped and oiled and packed and so forth and sent off. And one of the guys in there, his son was overseas, so he sent his serial number back to his dad. Said, hey, here's the FN, M16A4 that I got. And he looked back, he goes, yeah, I test fired that one. So, the guy at the factory, made and test fired the gun that his son was carrying overseas. So there's some of those things that, yeah, you bet that factory, those folks are proud. And what they do, it is life and death. It's not a product that if it fails, oh well, we've got a great warranty repair service. No, that there is no warranty repair. That it has to work, and those people, they take that to heart. And we are just lucky to get that on the consumer side. I mean, we benefit from having such a skilled workforce that cares and has that much heart, because what they have done and built for the last 25 years there, somebody's life is depending upon every single one of those guns that they put in a crate. Right. And that same workforce and that same care and attention to detail, goes into every gun that you buy at the dealer shelf.
Well, geez, Mark, I think we have we've dipped our toe into virtually everything that FN represents and everything they do that can in any way be brought on an AR-15 podcast.
Except for their grenade launchers.
Well, yeah, there is.
Now, hold on, I want those here. So, the Mark 13 grenade launcher is awesome, and JW, I'd be lying if I didn't tell you I'm asking for that to be built in the U.S. because, it's something that you cannot import a destructive device for sale in the U.S. We would have to manufacture it here. So, if by the grace of God we get, for some, strange reason, the ability to manufacture that in South Carolina, you bet your butt we'll make that available.
Yeah, well, I think that'll be enough to get me involved in this car. Mark, is there anything else that you'd like to share with us? Anything that you want to tell us about FN, the company, anything?
I would say keep your eyes open. This year is going to be an exciting year. We have got some products coming that specifically for the AR-15 world, if you served in the past or in the very recent time frame, there may be AR-15s that will be speaking your language as absolutely close as they possibly can without going pew 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 pew. So I would I'd keep my eyes peeled for something along those lines. We've got some fun stuff coming.
Well, I sure will. Well, listen, it's been great to have you. It's been an honor and a pleasure. Thank you for coming on the show. And we would invite you to stay with us if you would like to, but we know that schedules being what they are, oftentimes we all have other things that we need to be doing. So, Mark, whatever your preference is, you can stay with us for a little bit of feedback, or we can say goodnight and let you go.
I got a little bit of time.
All right. Well, I don't know if you're aware, but Brownell sponsored a rifle giveaway, and we have drawn a winner, Hunter Carr. And so that rifle was a fabulous opportunity to build something. It was a great opportunity to have Brownells help the show out and provide just some amazing products. And if FN had bought or been able to sell barrels at Brownells, we would have bought one of those. But
you're gonna have to check your Brownells website again. They do carry our barrels.
Well, I noticed that. It was of course after our build. The only things out there were Colt and FN or Colt and Brownells barrels, so it was a little too late.
Yeah, we're trying. It's that bus or it's the 18-wheeler now. So we change lanes and our barrels are available for sale through Brownells.
Well, that's an awesome opportunity. Anthony, you'd put something up here from Laser Max. You want to tell us what this is?
Yeah, we're on to the feedback section of the show here, guys, and we noticed that one of our posts, we were mentioned in a post by another company on Facebook named Laser Max. So they mentioned us out for episode 110, so we encourage you guys to head over, check out Laser Max, see what they're all about. We're not affiliated with them in any way. They just happened to mention episode 110 because of the female panel that we had on. So check over with Laser Max on Facebook and check them out and see what they're about.
All right. So Jim Q wrote in, and he said that he wanted to get episodes 1 through 72, but they're not on iTunes. And I wrote back to Jim to let him know where he could get him, but I thought it worth mentioning to the listeners in general that you can download each of the MP3s for every episode from the AR-15 podcast website so that you can put those into your iTunes or whatever other MP3 player you have to listen to our show wherever and whenever you'd like to. Mark, this is the email that I think we might have some ability to use your expertise in, but it is from Mark M., and he writes, "Hey guys, for better or worse, I am seriously considering a 14.5-inch barrel pinned and welded to 16 inches for my first AR.
Sounds like a great idea.
My question is, if I get my SBR stamp down the road, can I have a gunsmith remove the pin and weld and return my barrel to its original state? Or once it's pinned, do all subsequent flash hiders need to be pinned and welded to maintain the barrel and flash hider's integrity?" I would say that's relatively easy. If you get the stamp and your lower gets engraved, then as an SBR you can take the pin out and take off the flash hider, although I think that would be a little difficult. I'm imagining you'd have to grind it off, wouldn't you?
Yeah, I don't really see a big point in doing that. If you're going to SBR it, you probably are wanting your barrel even shorter than 14.5, and if you're running an AR, you're probably going to be running a muzzle device rather than just a threaded barrel sticking out the end. So the goal in SBRing it probably wouldn't be just to take off the flash hider. It'd be to stick a whole different barrel on that's shorter or chop down that one. So my barrels that are 14.5 and are pinned and welded, I just leave them like that. And if I want something shorter on an SBR, I just get a whole shorter barrel, like an 11.5 inch, 12.5 inch barrel.
Now, here's the piece that I think is interesting. He says, also, it looks like the 14.5-inch carbine length gas system configurations are losing popularity. BCM offers just a few carbine configurations compared to the numerous options in the mid-length. I was always under the impression that the carbine length gas system is ideally suited for a 14.5-inch barrel. Is this a result of consumers demanding the softest shooting rifle they can get, regardless of reliability, or am I just paranoid? I've read about issues with the 14.5 mid-lengths having trouble extracting and locking back the bolt. Just doesn't seem worth the potential hassle, but BCM apparently thinks it is. What are your thoughts on 14.5-inch mid-lengths? Mark, with so many years in the hands-on side of this, do you know of any issues with the 14.5-inch barrels in a carbine length gas system?
Well, the carbine length gas system, it's tried and true, and it's going to, run. I mean, that's what we've been doing for, excuse me, for a long time. But it is it is a very violent system. I mean, that is something that, if you stretch the gas out to a mid-length, it softens it, it smoothens it out, and it's going to, lower the chamber pressures and should be a better running system. Now, what people need to, when you really look at it, the key word is system. The difference between, or it's the sum of all the parts. It's not just where the gas hole is in relation to the end of the barrel. You also have to look at the gas port size that you're running, as well as the buffer weight that you're running. And those things will balance out with the ammunition that you choose. So when you start getting closer to the edge for, performance, if you want it softer shooting and you're running this ammunition, you may not be able to go to the extremes and run a 77 grain gold medal and run a 42 grain or a 45 grain, Hornady varmint round. So, the mid-length system does shoot nice. It shoots soft. Our 16-inch tactical carbine, we went with the mid-length gas system on there. If you look at the thing as a system, you can really, balance that out and get the optimum way to go. I mean, if I were building one, I'd run a 14.5-inch with a mid-length gas system. So I guess maybe that's my answer.
So
the longer the gas system, the smoother. But you're cutting out a little bit of the gas, so if you don't tune things properly, then yeah, you could run into some bolt hold back issues.
Well, so it seems to me that really it's a matter of trying to address consumers' demand for a rifle that is not as aggressive in its recoil impulse.
Because 5.56 is just such a brutal round.
Well, and you know what? I've never understood that. I really haven't. I am just an old school trigger monkey, and I don't ever look at the thing to say, well, how much softer can I make this thing shoot? And it may be that at 8 my dad put me on a 300 Weatherby Magnum, and I'm a little bit spoiled, but you're right. It's a 223, but that's beside the point. He goes on and says, love the show. Would like to hear fewer interviews and more discussion about specific topics like the earlier days of the podcast. Maybe you could interview someone from BCM, Daniel Defense, or Noveski and have them clear up some of my confusion. Well, Mark, we decided to get Mark from FN to come on the show and help clear this up for you, and so we hope that helps. So let's see.
I can text Marty and at Daniel Defense and if he's got a question.
Let's see. Rex Racer 707 wrote in on Livewire. That's our podcast feedback on the website, isn't that, Anthony?
Yeah.
Anthony's got
he nodded.
Yes, I think so. Yes. Sorry, I was muted. Yeah.
All right. He says, thanks, guys, for a great podcast. Just got into listening to podcasts. Yours was the first one I downloaded. I'm hooked now. Thanks for a great show. Let's see. Thomas says, hope you're recovering from shot, and he made some good contacts. That being said, I was thinking you could explore doing a show on 6.5 Grendel, 6.8 SPC, or even 7.62 by 39, or 5.45 by 39. Mark, are these calibers things that FN ever looks at seriously, or like we talked about, being able to have that kind of top-down view into the industry and being more considerate? Do you see these as things that are kind of marginal in terms of how many rifles that you can produce and how many of those you actually could sell, or is there some part of that multi-caliber arena that you say we really think that would be good for us?
We're in that process right now. You're right. Some of those things we look at, whether it's 5.45 by 39, and say, no, we're Smith did that 6-7 years ago and produced a rifle for that when ammunition was coming in for like $187 per 2,000 rounds, and it made sense to do. And some of the other calibers, you got to be careful of the flavor of the week. By the time you decide to make it and industrialize it and produce it, if that fad left, then you're sitting there with a whole bunch of rifles. So we take a look at them all seriously. There's some that we may do, not all of them that you listed there, but there's some sleepers in the group that offer you some real performance that we may take a look at.
Well, so would you say, and I know I'm going to put you on the spot here, would you say that having FN get behind a caliber basically cements it into the tapestry of the industry?
Well, we did it for 7.62 by 51 and 5.56 NATO are both FN calibers.
Right.
So that's a little one that most people don't know, but those are calibers that FN standardized through NATO. So yeah, there is kind of a rich tradition and history there of creating caliber and cementing it in as a NATO cartridge. We've done it a whole lot more than everybody else. I don't think if you see us come out with a commercial rifle in a one of these cooler calibers, it's not going to be the same statement. It's not going to be here's the new 5.56 or here's the new 7.62. We are committed to the commercial market, and there are things, whether it's a 6.8 or a 300 blackout. I don't think us producing a rifle that's going to meet some market demand is going to, be a giant flag to everybody that, that's the new thing. Well, no, it may not be the new thing, but it is pretty cool. So, we'd like to get behind it.
Well, on that point, I'd like to see you get behind 300 blackout so we can find more of it at the store shelves. I'm just saying.
Come on, Reed, just roll your own.
Well, I do, but I had to buy 300 blackout cases from a fellow here in town that made them himself, and he talked about the absolute chore it was to cut down the cases and get them shaped, and I was happy to pay him 15 cents a case for that. So Thomas continued, and he says he has a question in regards to AR sights on SBRs. Would you go with an aim point or EOTech? He said, I was thinking I would go with XS sights for rifles on it, but started to think I should go red dot. I think Steve put a review of some XS offset sights on the Gun and Gear podcast, and I don't think he was very happy with how low they were, because to get on them, I think you had to be missing a cheekbone. I'm a fan of iron sights on the SBRs, but I have less trigger time on them than JW, and for me, I haven't really weighed the issues of sight radius compared to using an aim point. JW, do you have a perspective?
Kind of like Mark was saying, there's like the battle ready guns versus kind of the go out and play with them guns. My SBR is kind of more set up as like a battle ready. This is the gun that I grab with me when the zombies start crawling. And so I do have some backup irons on it. It's not the gun that I'm stretching out to the limits of 5.56 capabilities. So sight radius isn't really something that I'm freaking out about. The fact that it's only this long rather than this long. I know we always say train on irons first because that's the foundation, but red dots make learning to shoot real easy. So it's tough not to recommend an aim point or an EOTech. I'm glad he's already kind of looking at the standards. And if I were to pick one, first time I was doing it, I would lean towards the aim point.
Yep. I think I would too. Mark, do you have a perspective?
For the little guns, JW spot on. It's, people want to get wrapped around the axle to make, a gun do everything. Well, no, these need to be, purpose built. If I have a 10.5-inch gun and it's short and it's made to be minute a bad guy or minute a zombie, and really define the operational envelope of that. That's not the gun that I need, optics on to try and hit 600-meter targets. It's, that. I want to put a bullet in that right now, and it's really close to me. So, at the end of the day, a lot of the times, when we shoot competition, and you'll see people get behind a scope or a red dot or even irons, and they're sitting there aiming, and the target's at 20 yards, and you want to smack them and go, you have a 3-foot stick. If you point that at the target, just trust me, it's going to go in the middle. So, I mean, I am a fan of the red dot sights. It gets people, kind of, to loosen up a little bit and go ahead and pull the trigger faster and see what happens.
All right. Well, Thomas, I hope that helps. Let's see. So Ed H. writes in, it would be really helpful to do an episode in ammo, brass versus steel, finishes on steel cases, bullet versus twist rate, etc. There's so many training and shooting a lot. If I wish to save money, what can I do to extract and work properly? Is it harmful? What good ammo versus bad? How to tell, etc. Well, Ed, I think we can do that. But Mark, while we have you on the show, when FN puts their barrels out, and FN's thinking, all right, we're going to be in the AR market, do you guys really kind of go out and like take a hodgepodge of commercially available stuff and see what it's going to do to the rifles? Is that a part of your process, or do you build it to FN quality, and if it won't run and feed, the cheapest, dirtiest, Soviet, 223 stuff, then that's not your problem? Or kind of tell me what FN thinks about ammo on that side.
Well, we try and build the highest quality and the most reliable gun that we can, and I know they do test it with a wide variety of stuff. That being said, I don't know how you would build an AR different to shoot crap ammo. I don't know what you would do, short of, make the chamber a bit bigger so it all fits and flies no matter how much lacquer or steel or shenanigans that they're trying to shove in there. I mean, we build them to, the quality that we can, and, recommend quality ammunition to it. At the same token, I don't hear people complaining that they can't get their, inexpensive ammo to fire in there, so I think we're doing something right. But no, we don't. I don't know what the recipe would be to shoot the dirtiest, cruddiest ammo we can find.
Well, we've actually had some people ask us those questions. How do I make my dirty, cruddy, crappy ammo cycle reliably? We try. We try to be as helpful as we can.
Don't talk about me like that, Reed. I heard that.
Well, now that you're actually able to shoot a man-sized target at 100 yards.
Minute of barn, yeah.
Yeah, when you've got to minute a man, we're happy to welcome you into the club. Now you just have to have your ammo, and you'll be able to hit the X all day long.
Yep. I know.
It always shocked me when people spend $1,000, $2,000, $3,000 on a rifle and a system and optics, and then it's like, ooh, that's a nickel cheaper. Like,
yeah, well, when you're buying 5,000 of them, those nickels start to add up.
It's true, but it's like, hey, look, I finally got my sports car. You got any crap that came out of the the back of the fuel pump that I can get? Any
discount gas
off the farm gas? Yeah.
How about $100 pair of tires? Yeah.
Yeah. It's never understood it.
Well, I have a tendency to follow that logic and just choose good ammo. I think I made a mistake once of buying some Russian stuff. I took it back to the store after it would fail to hold my bolt open, and I bribed a manager into trading me into some other kind of ammo. So, yeah, they didn't like me at Cabela's that day. So I think that's the end of a very good show, Mark. Once again, we're really happy to have you on the show. We appreciate you joining us. At this point, Anthony is going to go ahead and no, Anthony, you're a little under the weather. Let's let JW and his golden baritone read us out. And Mark, if you'll just stay with us, we'll wrap the show up, and we can.
All right.
Go ahead, JW.
All right, guys, send us any questions or comments that you might have to feedback@ar15podcast.com. There's also the ability for us to receive recorded voicemail. If you visit the AR-15 podcast website and use the SpeakPipe plugin that pops up. Please subscribe and listen to the podcast for free in iTunes or over on Stitcher. Leave us a review there so the show gets placed a little bit higher in the searchers. All these new listeners that have been joining up, that's how they've found us. Share your pictures with us over on Instagram at AR15podcast, and tag your pictures with hashtag AR15podcast, and we'll throw some in the show notes. Follow us on Google+, where you can watch us live at plus.google.com/plusAR15podcast. Check out our YouTube page over at youtube.com/c/AR15podcast. Visit us on Facebook, where we've been having a lot of interaction with listeners and getting some great feedback from some of the posts and photos that we put up. Just search for us, AR-15 Podcast.
Yes, and you too can make fun of me and my lack of capability in shooting.
There's a whole bunch of podcasts that make up this network. We just passed 5 million downloads since the FRN began, so make sure to visit firearmsradio.tv, where you can see a list of all the shows that we've got. And don't forget to use our Brownells affiliate link for all your AR-15 parts at ar15podcast.com/parts. And for everything else, there's Amazon. So go to firearmsradio.tv/Amazon, and we'll be able to see just a little bit of every purchase that you make.
All right. Well, everybody, thanks for being here, and listeners, we will see you next time.
Good night.
Have a good one,
Thank
guys.
you.